أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللعين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبا القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala. My respected brothers and sisters and those that are online or they will join us online. Alhamdulillah, we are grateful to Allah to give us this opportunity today. And today we are going to continue from where we left off last week, Sunday. Today we are going to talk about lesson 4, which is the way of resolving fundamental issues of the world. How do we resolve fundamental issues? Remember, as I mentioned so many times in our lessons, we are going to use our intellect, pure thinking, pure thoughts, to be able to, explain our responsibilities as human beings. What do we need as human beings? So today we'll talk about the way in which we can resolve fundamental issues, whether we are Christians or we are Muslims or we are atheists. There are certain fundamentals that everyone uses such fundamentals to solve the problems, the problems of human beings. But before we go into this, I want us just to recap what we did last week. Last week we spoke about human beings pursuing perfection. Every human being in your life is designed in such a way that you are looking for perfection. So everything you do it because you know there is something good that will come out of it. And perfection can only be established when we know the reality. We spoke about the reality. And this reality, how do we go there? Like as we mentioned last week, we spoke about we have you, and you have the free will, and then you have the intellect, which guides the free will to choose from the speculative things. So we said the world is the speculative world. So you see, you choose what you eat, you choose what you wear, you choose where you go, you choose where not to go. So the choices you make, they are based on your free will and your intellect, which leads us to choose what we choose. Today, the lesson that we are going to talk about is very important. It clarifies this lesson 3. So like as we mentioned, we have speculative reality. So what you think is right might not be the same as what he thinks is right. So in each and everyone's mind, we have differences over how we identify what is right and what is not right. Okay? Like for instance, some of us, we are Muslims, and we think that Islam is the way to go. And some others are Christians. Like we have one brother who is a Christian who is also following and enjoying the lessons. And he also thinks that his Christianity is correct. And we have atheists also who believe that God doesn't exist. And all of them, each and every one of them believe that they are right. So today, the lesson that we are going to study, we want to know, how do we know what is right? How do we know what is right? Because remember, we have you with everything you have. And this world is where we have the atheists, we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have Buddhists, we have the Hindus, we have everyone here. And everyone here is claiming that I am right. Everyone. And nobody says I'm right without their reasons. So those reasons for now, they are speculative reasons. So a Buddhist says, my Buddhism is correct based on reality that are speculative. Okay? So we are going to examine a human being. How do human being knows what is right? How do we identify that this is right or it is not right? So today we talk about the ways of resolving fundamental issues of the world. Okay. Here we are told that he said when man enters the domain of resolving the fundamental issues of the worldview in the way of realization of understanding the principles of a true religion, yani everybody want to understand what is right, which religion is the truth, from the speculative truth. Okay, speculative is what we think is right. Like as I told you last week, 1 + 1 is 2. It's not because we are Muslims, that is why we know it's 2. A Christian knows that 1 + 1 is 2. Buddhist knows that. Why? Why when it comes to 1 + 1, all of us, we are together? Because 1 + 1 in its real sense is 2. So nobody can deny that. So the same way from the speculative reality, when we come to reality itself, nobody is going to doubt that. Okay? But remember, in every field of science, there is a reality. But in this class, we are talking about God. We are talking about religion. So the main thing we are discussing here is about God. Okay? We want to know what is God and who is God. And is he an existent that is real or is just a fiction of our imagination? Okay. So now, pay attention and listen to this. We have something they call it epistemology. Okay. Epistemology means that philosophical theory of knowledge, meaning that how do you know something? Ways of knowing it is epistemology. Like for instance, when we talk about colors, this is blue, this is red, this is yellow. We know that we cannot identify blue from yellow unless through the eyes. It is the eyes that will see to identify that this is red and this is yellow. And these eyes, they have to be in perfect condition. If the eyes are not in perfect conditions, they might see something and think that it is something else. So we have science of epistemology. And luckily, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, whoever, atheist, all of them, they have this, epistemological sciences where they can have these things. They can use these things to know what is the truth. Like now when I say 1 + 1 is 2, we all have the epistemological science of thoughts. We can think. So when we put 1 + 1 together, we know it is 2. Okay? Regardless whether you are Muslim or Christian, it doesn't matter. So the same way, when we say something is blue, everybody knows. Whether we are Muslims or Christians, we know it's blue. Okay? When we say something smells nice, it doesn't matter whether we are Christians or Muslims, we can all smell it to see whether it smells nice or not. Okay? So all human beings, from the beginning of human beings until the day human beings, all of them will cease to live. We have what we call 4 divisions of epistemology. Everybody has it. Everybody. 4. Number 1, we have what we call experimental understanding or experimental epistemology. Experimental epistemology is any science or any knowledge that we can be able to know it through our 5 senses. Okay? You see, human beings, we have 5 senses, isn't it? So this 5 senses is part of our capital here, where we use it to be able to know the truth. So when I say there is a mamba, we all know that this is a mamba. Now we acquire the knowledge of that mamba. And we see the mamba to know that it is a mamba. So the number 1 is experimental understanding. So every human being, Christian, Muslims, whoever, you have those senses. Of course, some people, as a result of sickness or something like that, sometimes they lose certain senses. But under normal circumstances, every human being, you're supposed to have what? 5 senses. What is the use of these 5 senses? For you to engage this world. It is in this world we have colors, we have lions, we have snakes, we have horses, we have elephant and everything. Elephant is not us. We see it with our eyes through experimental understanding. Okay? So let's look at the 5 senses. We have the eye. We use the eyes to see color, to see sizes. So when we say elephant is big, it's not only to Christians or atheists or Muslims. It is universal. Everybody knows that an elephant is a giant animal. That is through the eyes. And we have the sense of smell, right? Sometimes we smell something. Okay. Like we know that ether, it's very nice, isn't it? Everybody knows that, regardless whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. That is the sense of smelling. And we have the sense of hearing. We can hear. Okay, we all know Abdul Basit, isn't it? His recitation is wonderful. How do we know that? Through the sense of hearing. The same way we can talk about the sense of taste. Sugar is nice, isn't it? How do we know? Because all of us, we share this sense. And the last one is sense of feeling. Today is a bit chilly, isn't it? It's cold. How do we know that? Because we have the sense of, and remember, all these that I mentioned, we share the same thing. Okay? So we can say that today we, the Muslims, are saying that the weather is cold, and then the Christians are saying it's hot, and we are debating about that. That is impossible. Because we all share that. So this experimental understanding is the first one. And if you look at the kind of sciences we have today, okay, physics is classified under experimental epistemology. Physics, chemistry, biology, all these 3 sciences, they fall under experimental. Why? Because what is physics? You know physics through your senses. Maybe somebody will say, no, there are certain things you need to use microscope. Of course, still you will use your eyes to look into the microscope for you to determine whatever is there. It is through your senses. So the senses becomes what? Intermediary to whatever gem or whatever that it is. So physics, chemistry, biology, all of these, they fall under experimental understanding. So every human being has this part. Now we go to the second one. We call it intellectual epistemology or intellectual understanding. What is intellectual? Intellectual is the capacity to think. Everybody can think. Unless maybe if they have some kind of deformities. But every human being can think, isn't it? That is why when we say 10 plus 10 to every human being is 20. Because every human being has the capacity to think. So if you come to the second one, which is the intellectual understanding, the domain of intellectual or the field of intellectual understanding is logic. Every human being does logic. Every human being uses logic. And philosophy. Every human being uses philosophy. Okay? Yes, the father. Every human being uses philosophy. Okay? So you see that every human being, when it comes to this science, logic, philosophy, and mathematics, every human being is like that. And every human being has the ability to use his rational thought. That is why when I say 10 plus 10, all of us, we know it's 20. Why? Because we have the capacity of thinking. Okay? The same way, we look at logic. Everybody does logic. Yani, maybe somebody will ask, like what? Of course, logic, you know that. If you cannot stay for 2-3 days without bathing. Why? Because you know that not bathing is indecency and it's a form of sickness. So everybody knows that, no, I need to bath. Everybody knows that I need to, wash my clothes. Logically, it makes sense to you that you must, you cannot be nice person, you say, mashallah, and you don't wash your clothes and your clothes are dirty. Because logically, it doesn't work. Okay? So intellectual understanding, the domain of it is three. We have logic, philosophy, and mathematics. Then we go to the third domain. We call it devotional understanding or devotional epistemology. What is devotional? Devotional is a knowledge that it's not the first one or the second one, but this one, in fact, you learn it through history. Okay? You devote yourself to something. Like, for instance, here in South Africa, right? In South Africa, we said there was a man by the name Oliver Tambo. Do we know him? How did you know him? Where did you meet him? Okay, but you see, all of us, we know him. Why do we know him? Because we know people who told us about him and we trust those people. So there are chains, okay? We know somebody who told us about Oliver Tambo. Maybe that person didn't see Oliver Tambo. He saw someone who saw someone who saw Oliver Tambo. So now we believe that Oliver Tambo existed, not because we sat down in the house and we thought and we think and we calculated and we got to know. No. Or we experimented. We didn't experiment. We didn't see him, neither did we smell him or we heard him. But because we believe in the people who are between us and Oliver Tambo, who met him, who told us about him, that is why we believe in him. Like, for instance, Isa, alayhi salam, Jesus. Do we know Jesus? We say yes. Yeah, we know him. But how do we know him? We know him through the same devotional understanding. Because we believe in people who saw some people, who saw him, who know him, and we trust in them. The same way like our beloved Prophet Muhammad. Do we know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or we don't know him? We know him. How do we know him? We know him because there are successive reports that tells us about who he was. So in most cases, we learn a lot because of that. There are so many things that we know. We don't know them through experiment. You cannot go to the laboratory to experiment whether Jesus lived or he didn't live. You cannot go to laboratory to calculate 1 + 1 to add up 25 with sigma 2 or maybe raised to the power 3 to know whether Jesus lived or he didn't live. These things you cannot do them. You can only know them through, we call it devotional understanding. Okay, why do we perform salat? We perform salat because we are devoted to our beloved Prophet Muhammad, who told us to perform salat that way. And that one is not only in religion, okay? In every science, we have devotional knowledge or devotional epistemology. Every field of knowledge. At the universities, when you are doing, let's say, philosophy, you have to study the founding fathers of philosophy. Who were they? They will tell you, like maybe Aristotle. Who is Aristotle? How did you know Aristotle? You know Aristotle because there were people who saw him until today. That is why you know him. Okay? Like, Karl Marx. I'm sure you've heard about Karl Marx before. Who knows Karl Marx? How did we know him? We know him because there are successive reports. So whether it is religious or it's not religious, we can acquire knowledge through devotional understanding. And we live our lives according to that knowledge. Okay? Then we have the last one, which we call mystical understanding or mystical epistemology. Okay. When it comes to mystical epistemology, that one is not very common for every human being. There are special people who got knowledge through this mysticism. Like, for instance, you find someone, he has a unique ability to know something. And nobody knows how he gets to know it. Nobody knows. But he won't tell you. Like, for instance, you'll find somebody who will look into your palm and he will tell you strange things, and it's true, it's going to happen. He will look at you and say things to you, and it's going to happen. You see, in such knowledge, the problem is that we don't know the method. Unlike if you tell me that there was a philosopher by the name Socrates, I will want you to give me a proof. How do you know that there is Socrates? So you must give me a book about him, his student, his student's student, until I will know. But if I tell you that, look, there is some snake behind this wall, and I didn't go there, but I'm able to know that through mystical understanding. I cannot explain to you how do I get that knowledge to be able to know, but I can show you the result. The result is when you go there, you will see the snake. So like revelation, why? Why is part of the mystical knowledge or mystical epistemology? Because prophet sits down for some time, then he will say, Jabrail was talking to me. Nobody sees Jabrail talking to him. Nobody sees Jabrail whispering into his ear. But after that, then he will tell us what Jabrail said. How do we prove that what Jabrail said is true? Because what prophet said, we can see it. It can manifest for us to see it. Because that is what is knowledge. Knowledge is the manifestation of the truth. Okay, so all human beings, since Allah created, since we started until the day we will end, we have those four. Okay, first, experimental understanding. We have intellectual understanding, devotional understanding, and mystical understanding. I hope it's clear. Is there a question so far? No question. Okay. Yes.
No, what would be another example of mystical understanding?
Okay, mystical understanding. Are you familiar with the Sangoma and all these spirit, what they call it? You are familiar with it? Okay. You see, there's Sangomas. Sometimes they say something that this thing will happen tomorrow, and then it happens. How do they know it will happen? What is black magic? That is good. What is black magic? Black magic is a kind of knowledge that is not accessible to everyone, for few, because of certain unique abilities they have. Okay, so black magic, or there are people who dream. When they dream that something will happen, they will come and tell you, and it's going to happen. Or there are people who have a weird feeling. When they have a weird feeling about something, it's going to happen. So that is why sometimes you see in our culture, they will tell you that when you wake up in the morning and your palm is itchy, it means maybe you are going to get money or something like that. They say if your eye is bubbly like this, maybe there will be a visitor in the house. Okay? These are some kind of interpretations, but I'm not saying they are true. But yes, any form of knowledge that can be able to prove in the external existence that it is, but we don't know the means to acquiring that knowledge. The most important thing is it is proven. You understand? Like our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. When Jabrail came and told him this, that this thing is going to happen, we don't know. We only wait until it happens. Said, hey, he said it. Remember, what he knew, he didn't think about it. He didn't use intellectual understanding. He didn't use experimental understanding. Neither did he use devotional understanding. He got to know it through mystical understanding. I hope it's clear. Like if you look at some of our scholars, they had this mystical, understanding. Like one of the great scholars by the name Ayatollah Bahjati. I'm sure if you've heard about him. He was, he was another person altogether. Ayatollah Bahjati can see you and he will know your reality. How did he know that? He doesn't read a book or he doesn't think. He gets this through mystical way. You understand? So black magic, people who are gifted, they have this unique ability to be able to know. It's part of one of the possible ways that a human being can get knowledge. I hope it's clear. So now let's come to the board and look at what we studied last week. Here we say we have you here. Okay? So you will acquire knowledge from one of these four. Okay? So from one, where are you going to get the knowledge? The knowledge is here. Whether it is mystical, intellectual, or devotional, or what do you call it? Experimental, you get them here. Because what do you see? You see here. You don't see your eyes. Can you look at your own eyes? You can't. Your eyes look at something in this, the rest apart from you. Okay. So now we want to know the realities that are here. So one of the ways we can know, we use one of this field. The first one, which is experimental understanding. Okay. So do we want to say that everything that is here, we can only know it through experimental, through seeing, through smelling, through hearing, through taste, or through feeling? Is that what we're going to say? No. Because experimental understanding alone cannot give us the entire knowledge in this world. No. Why? Because it's not everything that is here we can see. We can hear, we can smell, we can taste, and we can feel. There are so many things that are here that we cannot use experimental understanding to know them. Example, anger. Do you know anger? Who can show me anger? What is anger? Or good? Can you see good? Can you feel it? Can you feel good? Is it? How do you feel good?
Fresh cut.
No, I'm not saying you feel good. There is something good, right? There is good, right? Can you see it? Can you smell it? Can you hear it? Can you touch it? Yes. So if we say everything that exists or everything that we have to know, we have to use the senses, then we are wrong. There are so many things that exist that we will not know them through senses. I hope it's clear. Now, we know that senses can help a lot, but still it is limited. Then we come to the second, we call it intellectual understanding. What is intellectual? To calculate, to be able to calculate. Yes, alhamdulillah, we can know a lot of things here by using our thinking and our reflection. We can know a lot of things. But like as I asked you, can we think to know Jesus? No. So meaning if you're going to say it's only thought that we are going to use to know the realities here, thinking also is not enough by itself. So now we need a little bit of experimental, a little bit of thinking. Okay? Then let's come to the third one, which is devotional. Devotional also can help us to know something, but it cannot help us to know everything. So we need a little bit of devotional epistemology. And then finally, we have mystical epistemology. Mystical epistemology also cannot help us to know everything. We will know some, and we wouldn't know some. So we understand that these four, they can support each other so that we can know the truth. The intellectual will have, like, especially when it comes to the intellect and the senses. Do you know that the eyes and the intellect, they work very close together? The eyes. If I write something like this, 15 plus 20. Even if I don't mention it, your mind will tell you that 15 plus 20 is what? No, it's 40. No, it's 40. Oh, it's 39. It's 40. 15 plus 20.
85.
You see? You see now, even though I am standing here and talking to you, when I said it's 30, all of you are saying that, no, Molana, it can't be. Why? Because logically, truth cannot be changed if all the laws and rules are at the same level. No, it cannot change. But what am I trying to tell you here? This one, you have to see with your eyes, and the mind will calculate. So the eyes, the mind or the intellect depend on the eye. The eye must see this so that it will calculate to say it is 35. Okay, so here what has happened? The eye and the intellect, they have worked together. The same way the ears and the intellect, they work together. The taste, the tongue, and the intellect, they work together, even though they are different. There are times where the mind can work alone without the help of any of this. Okay, the mind can work alone. If you sit down and then you are calculating your allowance every day, every month your dad gives to you, and then you say, hey, this money went quick. And you are calculating, what did I buy? Do you see the money you give? No, you're not seeing it. You're doing every calculation where your mind, without seeing or smelling or hearing or tasting or feeling. So in that case, the mind is working alone. Okay? So the same way, there are times where all of them will work. But I want us to look at this part so that it will clarify all this that we have mentioned. Okay? Now, if we come to this world, we have what we call different types of worldview. Different types. We want to know what is here. We want to know the reality that is there in this world. I want to know. You want to know. He wants to know. Everybody wants to know. So if you go to the universities, you go to schools, they will tell you that we have what we call scientific worldview. Scientific worldview has to do with all form of experimental understanding. So like today you hear they say scientifically proven. What does that mean? It means that they use the experimental science to know that this is like that. So they call it as scientifically proven. Either through physics, chemistry, or biology. Like for instance, if you have headache and you buy Panadol, why do you buy Panadol? They say it is scientifically proven that it can cure you from headache. What is scientifically proven in Panadol? It means that the ingredient that was used to make Panadol, it was tested and tried. And then they realized that it can solve that problem. So that is why if you go to the pharmacy and you want to buy a medicine, you don't say, I want Muslim medicine, or I want Christian medicine, or I want Buddhist or Jew. No. Why? You go there because you know that what is there from scientific perspective, it has been proven. Okay? Then we come to what we call philosophical worldview. There are people who view the world philosophically. They don't look at it from scientific point. Remember from the beginning of the lesson, we spoke about divine worldview and materialist worldview. So you see that the materialists, they only believe in anything that can be experimented. Anything that falls within physics, chemistry, okay, and biology. That is what they accept. Anything that is above that, they don't accept. So we have philosophical worldview. What is philosophical? Philosophical are the ones that look beyond scientific worldview. Like for instance, there are certain things that exist that we cannot use any form of experimentation to be able to identify them. And we cannot deny them. Like for instance, we have what we call necessity and possibility. Necessity, something is necessary. You cannot prove necessary. You cannot bring something outside to say this is necessary. You can't. Necessary can only be proven through philosophical, intellectual concept. I don't know, maybe if you are together. Is it clear?
Yes,
are you following?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have philosophical worldview, and then the third one, we have a religious worldview. There are people who view the world from the religious perspective. They see that no, there is somebody who made the ship, the big ship that we are all living in, and that person has a purpose for us. There is a way he wants us to live. There is a way he wants us to sleep and all that. So when they live in this world, they live according to that mindset. And then we have the last one, we call it Gnostic worldview. There are people who view the world from Gnostical perspective, okay? From mystical perspective. They have this unique understanding about the world. Okay? So if you look at these different types of worldview, they fall under the four epistemology. So if we want to know God exists or he doesn't exist, we will use these things to be able to know that he exists or he doesn't exist. If we want to know that do we have day of judgment or we don't have day of judgment, these are what we are going to use because that is our capital. We have to be able to engage. So you see that in this lesson, we are not only talking about Quran or the Bible or no. We are talking about what human being, the ability that Allah has given to you to be able to learn and to know things and to know what is true and what is not, to know what is real and what is not. I hope it's clear. So now we have added this four to who you are. And now we know that when we talk about human being, it's you have your consciousness, that is you, and then you have free will. And out of your free will, you have this four epistemology. And this four epistemology, they are going to help you to speculate from so many things that are here to know which one is correct and which one is incorrect. So there are propositions here, there are sayings, a lot of things that are said. For instance, God exists. I'm going to use this to look into it to say, is it true or is not true? Or they say, God doesn't exist. We are going to use the same method to search and to find the truth, whether it is true or it is not true. I am clear. Is there a question? So can I ask questions? Okay. Let me summarize what we studied today. Then, inshallah, I will see if there's no question. I will ask maybe one or two questions. Okay? Today we spoke about what we call the way of resolving fundamental issues. So when we say fundamental issues are problems that we want to solve them to know which one is true and which one is not true. Remember, here we are doing theology, so we focus more on God. But in everything, there are ways of solving fundamental issues. Okay? In everything. If you're in a business, and then maybe the business you're not making money, and the place is quiet, you have to find ways of solving this problem. So you first think where the business is located. Is it a good place? Will people patronize? And then the things that you are selling, do people need them? The people who live in this area, can they afford them? Who is who is selling for you? Is he friendly? Is he not friendly? All these things, you look at them. So you are trying to solve the problem of why is your business not growing. Okay, maybe let's, for instance, you always have issues with your dad or your mom, for instance. My mom always she shout at me. There is a way of solving that fundamental. You sit down and think, what is it that I do that mom always she shouts at me? Yeah, but always I don't wake up early. And then she shouts that wake up, wake up, wake up. Yeah, and why don't I wake up early? Because I don't sleep early. So I sleep around 12, so it becomes difficult for me to wake up. So how do I change that? Now I know the reason why my mom shouts at me. So I will start to sleep early so that I can wake up early so that the shouting will stop. So the same way in religion, we have this way of solving fundamental issues. And then we said to solve these fundamental issues, we will solve it with what we have. You must have. It's like you want to go into business. Your capital determines which business you can go into it. So the capital of every human being is this four. Intellectual, intellectual understanding, experimental understanding, devotional understanding, and mystical understanding. This is our capital. Okay, so inshallah, our next lesson, we're going to see how do we use the capital to engage properly here for us to know what is truth and what is not the truth. I hope it's clear. Okay. I think we have run out of time. So we will end here and then go for break for 15 minutes. Then we'll come and start with our next lesson. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل. It's time for our lesson on fiqh. And last week we spoke about najasat. Najasat, as we know, we said they are unclean things that are najis. And remember, before that, we spoke about tahara, and we said that everything is tahir, unless if we have proof that it is najis. Everything is clean. Everything is clean, unless when we have proof that it is not clean, right? So the 10 things that we mentioned, those ones we know and we have proof. How do we know and how do we have proof? Because that is what we've been told by our prophet and our imams and scholars. Okay? So they told us that urine is najis. They told us that feces is najis. They told us that kelp, dog, khinzir, pork, and so many other things that we mentioned last week. Those are the only things that are najis, right? Okay. Now the problem is, sometimes there is something that is clean, but it becomes najis. It's clean, but it becomes najis. And this is very important, because now that we know what is not clean, we know what is not clean. What about if something that is clean, it becomes unclean? What do we do? First, what is important is how do we establish that something that was already clean, now it is not clean? Something that we know that it was clean, but now it is not clean. Okay. So according to the teachings of Samahat Sayyid Ayatollah Sistani, there are 3 ways of knowing what is clean to be unclean. Okay? There are 3 ways. Number 1, it says that if a person is certain, okay, he's certain, and he is sure that this thing was tahir, but now it's najis. So for his certainty becomes a hujjah, it becomes proof, because he knows. Like for instance, we have water here, and then it ends that a blood enters in that water. Now you know, so you are certain. Water without the blood is tahir, it's clean. But once there is blood inside that water, of course I'm talking about water that is less than cold, okay, the water becomes najis. So now you know, you don't need anybody to tell you. So here you are the smaller marja in this regard, okay, because now it is you and what you see. Marja doesn't need to come and say, Kabir, where is that water? Let me investigate. No, you are the investigator. You investigate, and then you realize that there is najasun in that water. So it becomes a hujjah that it's najasun, you cannot use. That's number 1. Number 2, if somebody that is taking care of that thing, somebody that is in charge of it, I have water here, and you came here and said, Molana, I need water to make wudu. Then I said, this water is najasun. Don't touch that one. My saying is a hujjah, because I am in charge. Like for instance, a house help, when he or she says that this is najasun, or maybe your mother says to you that this is najasun, it's a hujjah. But of course, he or she must know the rules of najasa. It's not like maybe sometimes you have house help who is not a Muslim. They don't know exactly what the najasa is all about. These 10 najasa that we mentioned, they don't know. But if they know and they tell you that this is najisun, that becomes a hujjah. And then number 3, the last one, if 2 sane persons, okay, 2 sane persons, you are traveling, you saw water somewhere, you wanted to make wudu, and then there were 2 sane people, they say, hey, Habibi, this water is najisun. That one says it's najisun, it's more than enough for you to stay away from that water. Because now you have a proof that that water is najisun. Now, we know how something becomes, how do we have proof that something is najisun? But now the question that is very important. How does something that is pure becomes najisun? Of course, we know that it's just in coming in contact. If there is wetness, like for instance, if we have water here, or maybe something that is soaked in water, and it happens that it is najisun, there is najisun in that soaked thing. When it touches something else, and then it transfers the moisture into that thing also becomes what? Najisun. Pay attention to this. You have something that is soaked in najis, right? When that thing touches something that is clean, and then there is a transfer of moisture to the second one also becomes what? Najis. Okay, the question is, what about if the second one also touches something else? The second one now, it has gotten the najisun from this one to that one. So can the second one also transfer najisun, and that one also that follows, can that one also transfer najisun? So no go. If najisun comes in contact with this one, so this one has become najisun, and then this one, whatever that it touches, even if there is a transfer, we don't regard it as najisun. And remember, najisun, either the ainun najasa, the najasa itself has touched what is clean to make it najisun, or the moisture in the najasa to touch what is clean, then it becomes najisun. Like for instance, kakas is najisun, right? Kakas by itself is najisun. And then when you find kakas on this carpet, okay, of course, when I say kakas, a slaughtered animal, you know? That one, I'm not talking about that one. The slaughtered one, that is halal when we eat that one. I'm talking about carcass, like for instance, an animal, a dead body, okay? Yeah, let me use the word dead body. Dead body is najis. So when you find dead body on the carpet, right? And then there is transfer of moisture of the dead body to the carpet, then the part where the moisture has, you know, touched all of that part becomes what? Becomes najis. Okay? Now, so always, whenever there is a transfer, that is when najasa is established. Okay. Now that we have established this, if, remember last week we spoke about najasat, and today we have spoken about how do we come to the realization that this thing is najis. So we mentioned those 3, okay? And then we spoke about tanjis al-mutanajjis, something that is najisun, can it transfer the najasa to something and something and something, right? Okay, now we are going to look at if something becomes najisun, okay? How do we make it tahir?
Well, it's a good question here. So,
Okay.
do you know often, say for example, you go to place like a spa,
Spa, yes.
and or a sauna rather, sauna. And
Okay.
when I'm inside the sauna, you have there's Hindus coming there,
Mm.
there's a lot of mushrik people and religious.
Mm.
And when they sit on the same place
Mm.
as you.
Mm.
So Molana, it's for example, no, sorry, you're sitting in separate places,
Mm.
but because inside the sauna, it's your body's sweating, but all that sweat is evaporating.
Mm.
But now, everything that's sitting on top of you, it could be the moisture that's from the sweat of others, or it's from the water. But there's no direct contact. So would that be considered?
Look, if it could be, earlier on, what did I say? I said you have to have a proof. Okay? Everything is clean until you have a proof. So it could be, is it proof or is possibility? Possibility is not proof. Okay? Maybe. No. So if it is maybe, then you are clean. But if you know the transfer did, okay, you have a proof to that, then yes, it is najasun. You have to, go through the process too.
Well, a contact is not necessary.
No, contact is not necessary. Contact, if there is a transfer, of this moisture. Sometimes even you can shake a hand, but there's no transfer, so there's no najasa here. If you shake the hand off, somebody like that, there is nothing wrong because there is no transfer. Unless if there is wetness and there is a transfer, then definitely it is established. Okay. Now let's look at things that can purify something that is impure. Okay, something that is najasa. What can purify it? This is very important. You see, we have billions of things in this planet. Billions. And we said out of all these billions, it's only 10 that is najasa. And we are talking that this najasa impurity can make something that's pure to be impure. Okay, so what do we use to purify things that are impure? What do we use? Okay. So Mustafa talks about things that we use to make things that are impure pure. Number one, we have what you call water, ma, but clean water, of course, pure water, clean water. So if in case there is contamination between what is clean and what is not, one of the things that we can use to clean it, to bring it back to its origin is water. So we have water, and then we have number two, earth, the soil. Number three, we have the sun. The sun can make what is impure pure. Number four, we have what you call transformation. Istihala. I'll come and talk about it a little bit deeper. Istihala. And then number five, we have what you call change. Okay, when something changes from its najasa form to something else. I will also explain that one into details. Then we have number six, transfer. Transfer. If something that is najasun transfer into something that is not najasun, it becomes clean. And then number seven, we have Islam. And number eight, we have subsequence. Okay? If something is tahir, is najasun, and then there are certain things that now comes to it, subsequently it falls in line. Or maybe something that a Muslim, a non-Muslim, when he becomes Muslim, automatically subsequent. The children, the wife, and whatever, all of them automatically they fall under tahara. Then we have number 10. No, number 9, we have a removal of the intrinsic impurity, intrinsic ainun najasa. If you take away the ainun najasa and there's no traces of the najasa remaining, that thing now has become tahir. Like for instance, if you have a dead body here, right? And then we come and then we take the dead body and we didn't see any transfer of wetness into the carpet is clean in that regard. Then we have number 10, istibra. Istibra, there are animals that they eat feces. So they go through certain transformation for them to become tahir. Okay? There are animals that they stay for 40 days, like camels. Camels, if it eats carcass and feces, for 40 days, it has to only eat tahir. Until 40 days is not tahir, it cannot be eaten. Its sweat also is najasun. Like cow is 30 days. Okay? goat and sheep, I think that's about 10 days, and chicken are 3 days in that order. So if they eat the feces, not their feces, even other animals' feces, they have to go through this transformation. So once they eat, they are najis. So they have to go through the transformation before they become tahir. Then we have number 11, number 12, absence of Muslim. Okay, absence of Muslim, meaning that if somebody is a Muslim and then he tend to become non-Muslim also, he falls in that category. Okay, draining of blood from the slaughtered animal, the blood that gushes when we slaughter animal. When that blood finishes, the one that is remaining in the animal, that is tahir, the little remnant of blood that remains. Remember, blood is najis. But if you slaughter an animal, all the blood doesn't drain. There are some small ones that are there, which is tahirun. Then the last one, that is the last one, draining of blood from a slaughtered animal. Okay, so these are the 12 things that purify something that is impure. But there are certain important ones here that I mentioned that I would like to clarify. Okay, number 4, we talk about transformation. Something transforms. Something that is najasun, then it transforms, okay, to something else. Like what? Like what? Yeah, sometimes they call it converting or transforming from something to something. Okay, so in its original state, it was najasun, and it transforms into something else. So in that case, it has changed from its original state of being najasun to tahirun. Okay, so Mustafa says that is very important. There are certain wood. Okay, if a wood come in contact with najasa, and then you burn that wood until it transforms into ashes, those ashes can no longer be najasun, they are fire. Why? Because of the transformation. Okay, and then we spoke about also change. Okay, something changes into something. Okay, yeah.
Molana, you know about that wood story, right?
What?
You know, you said the wood, right? If you burn it to ashes, then it becomes fire.
Yeah.
What about, say, like the wood, it becomes charcoal, because they have to like heat it at a very high temperature. Would it still be?
Yeah, it's fire because it has moved from its original state to charcoal. So in that case, the charcoal is fire. There's no problem. Whether ashes or charcoal, it's fine. There's no problem. Unless if the charcoal also come in contact with najasun, then of course it is najasun.
Well, what about, for example, there was a piece of wood that was najis, and then with that they use it to make a member. How will we know something like that?
No, if you don't know, there's no problem. You see, in Islam, you must only, Imam Jafar Sadiq talks about this, very clear. Things will only be najasa if you know. If you don't know, no. It's fine. Okay? But if you know, maybe somebody that you trust told you that this member is made up of najasa wood, then you stay away from it. But if you don't have a proof, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's been processed.
No. If it has been processed, okay, let's say for instance, the najasa was at the sides of the wood, and then they removed it by planing, and all that is removed, then there's no proof that the remaining one is najis. So that one is clean, there's no problem. Okay, and it's like that. It's like if we prove that there's najasa here because there is a wetness of a dead animal here, and then we remove it and then we clean it. It means that it's tired. If there's no transfer of moisture from the animal, then it's tired. We remove this. We don't have any reason for us to say that it is najasa. Then we have change. Okay, change. What is change? Change is when najasa changes into something else, not transforming, change. Like for instance, sometimes liquor, there is a process that a liquor goes through to a point where it will turn into vinegar. Okay? Vinegar is fire. But the liquor that they process to a point where it becomes vinegar, that liquor is haram. So that change now makes what is najasun to become tahir. Then we have also transfer. Okay, transfer. You see, blood is najasun when it comes out, right? But if somebody is sick and he requires blood, while the blood is outside in that plastic is najasun. Okay, but once it enters into the body of that second person, that blood now is tahir. There's no problem with that because it has been transferred from its najasa state to, to the next person. So in that case, the najasa now is gone. Yes.
Now, see, you get cut, right?
Yes.
And now you have to use, that medical alcohol to clean the cut.
Yes.
Does that mean you impure? You have to do ghusl after that, or?
You see, when we say najasa, not these najasas that we have mentioned entails ghusl or no. There are najasas that entail ghusl and wudu. When urine comes from you, then you have to perform wudu. But if the urine comes from outside, you don't need to perform new wudu. Okay? Like you made wudu and then you have flashes of blood on your skin. That flashes doesn't spoil your wudu. It only spoils the dress that you are wearing. So you remove the dress, or maybe the skin, you clean it. If you clean it, you perform salah. You understand? So the same way you are sick and you have a cut here, and then they put, what do we call it, vinegar or whatever from liquor. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? The only problem that is there is if the liquor is in its real sense liquor, then if you're going to perform salat, you need to remove it. If after salat, you put it back. There's nothing.
But there's no ghusl required for external.
No, there's no ghusl. Ghusl is only required if something. You see, ghusl can only require if something comes out from you, that requires ghusl. Like you touch a dead body, that one you must perform ghusl. You cannot say no, you understand? You touch a dead body, you must make wudu. Okay? And if you pee, definitely you have to make wudu. But if it comes from outside to touch you, you don't need it. No. Even feces, when feces touch you after you have made wudu, there's no problem. Yes.
Just to share something, the way I understand is two types of alcohol. One comes through process of fermentation,
Yeah.
the liquor,
Yeah.
and the other one is from the chemical that you obtain from the crude oil or, for example, any chemical that is used in the perfumes, in the cup mixture, or even the one for the rooms.
Yeah.
So that is completely halal.
Yeah.
You don't have to wash it afterwards. The one that comes from liquor, if it go onto your clothes or touches your skin, it's then exactly as you
Yes.
You
can leave it whenever you are going to perform salat, you wash it. But the one that liquor, like the one we are saying, which is like medicine, those ones, there's no problem with that. Even the liquor itself, if it is in a content, depending on the amount of it, that is what makes it haram. If it is more, okay, but it depends on the quantity, okay? So the more is little, there is no problem. You can consume it, there is no problem. But if it is more, then it becomes a problem. Yes. Yes, if it is more, then it's a problem, because the body itself creates its own liquor. I think I spoke about this last week. Yes.
I thought the liquor, whether it's a drop or a bottle, it's haram. Because Sunnis understand, the new, especially church or they say that you consume as long as you don't get intoxicated on that alone. So that's
no. According to our Marathi, they don't say consume until you don't get intoxicated. There is a little amount, like most of the cough syrup, we have a smaller content of its liquor in it. That one, there is no problem.
So you see, the one in the cough means that is not the same liquor.
Oh, it's not the same liquor.
It's halal because it's from the chemical.
Okay.
It comes from the chemical. So the beers, these non-alcoholic beers, they are haram according to Sistani.
Yeah.
Because there was alcohol in them. Inside from the fermentation process, and now then they boil it or whatever they do, and then they remove the alcohol, it's still haram.
If they remove the alcohol, But you see, the secret here is that most of the food we have, it has alcoholic content. Rice has alcoholic content. Maize has alcoholic content. But yeah, it's very small that it doesn't cause harm. But if it is more, then there is where the problem is. Yeah, that's where the problem is. So now, so these are the 10 and 12 things that if something is najasun, they make them to be tahir. So from here we understand that everything is tahir until we have the proof, and we have proof that 10 things are najasun. And they are not only najasun, they can make what is tahir, what is clean to be najas. And if they make something that is clean to be najas, we can use one of these 12 methods to make it, to return it back to its original state to be clean. Yes.
Molana, can you just explain subsequence again? Subsequence, method number 8.
Oh, subsequence. Yes. Subsequent is, let's say we have something that is najasun. Okay. And then after some time, subsequently, it transforms, or there's a fermentation, okay? And after some time, maybe as a result of something outside entering into it and broadening it, making it more, and that intoxicant content now is disappeared. So in that case, it becomes tahir. It's like, for instance, water that is najis, right? If we have small water here, and yeah, if we put more water inside and then it exceeds core, subsequently that water now has become tahir. Yeah, yeah. So these are the things that will make everything tahir. Yes.
Can you explain the thing at 8?
Subsequent. You see, water, nah? We have Kalil water. Kalil water is little water, and we have core water and beyond. Kalil water, anytime there is small najasa that goes in, is najasun. Even if the color, the taste and smell didn't change. Okay? Like for instance, we have a bucket of water here. Even small sip of blood goes in and we see it, it's najasun. Right? Why? Because it's small water. But if that water eventually goes into a swimming pool which has larger water, so now that water cannot become najasun. Why? Because this water has gone, transferred into the water that is bigger than core water. And therefore, the entire water now becomes clean. Okay. And you see in fiqh, when we say clean water, there are clean water that maybe you wouldn't like to use. But if I don't want to use it, it doesn't make it not to be clean. Like for instance, when a urine goes into core water, that water is still clean, according to fiqh. That water, we can drink it, we can cook with it, we can bath with it, we can make wudu with it. That's nothing. Okay? But maybe we will frown to say, hey, there is a urine in there. But that is the nature of water. If you look at water, we spoke about running water. Running water carries a lot of najasa and leaves it as it moves along. Sometimes you find, if you watch this National Geography, you see that sometimes wilder beasts, about 200, 500 of them, they die in water when they are crossing. So that water also goes, it runs to a certain place. So those people, place they are using the water, they can't say because wilder beasts died in that water in Zimbabwe, so here is najasun, it transferred. Okay, that is why if you go on the moon, sometimes they distill their own urine to drink. They transfer it, and there's nothing wrong with that. You understand? So what is tahir in fiqh is not very simple that somebody will determine that, no, in my understanding, look like less than cold water, right? If small blood seeps into it, it disappears. If you come and then you check, you don't see anything. But they say that water is still najasun. And coincidentally, it can be najasun for you, and I will come and see it and it's not najasun for me. I can use it. You see the philosophy behind it. Yes.
Molana, what's the quantity of good water?
It's 243 liters of water, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. 234, 84, something like that. It's 84. Last 3 weeks we spoke about it. 284 liters and above. And above water is cold water. It's 384. Yeah. 384 liters and above. So 384 is quite a sizable number of water. Okay. So anything less than that, even if a small unit rain goes into it, that water is najis. Is there no question? Yeah.
No, so it's like 383 liters, right? Now a drop of urine goes inside. Would it still be considered najis, or would it?
300 is more than
Because
284.
no, it's 384.
Sorry, 3. Yeah.
So 383.
Yeah, it's najis. It's because it's less than cold water.
But how can we determine that? For example, if we see a bucket of water and now, or if we see a very large, I don't know.
Yeah, so you see, like the easiest way to calculate, right? They say 3.5 of the hand span. Okay. And then you say core. There are small differences between scholars. There are those who say that 3 hand span of hand span, the length, the breadth, and then the width wise.
Okay.
It's classified, yes. Yeah, some say 3.5. Okay. So it is that in which they calculated it to make it the 380 something. So the easiest to be able to calculate it is to use your hand. Yeah, then we will know that from this above is cold. Is there a question? If there is no question, then we will end our fiqh here. Yes.
Like, you see the pure water is 384, right?
Liters.
Yes, liters.
Yeah.
What happens if you put like a tank of urine
in that water? If it is more than core.
Yeah, it's more than good.
Yeah. You see, if it is more than core, it can only be najis if it changes the color. Maybe you put a lot of urine until the color change. Now we can see it's no more pure water. Or the smell. Now we can smell it. Or the taste. The taste has changed from pure water to urine water. Then in that case, that becomes najis. And this is a very good question. Kur and beyond water can only change if these 3 characteristics change: color, smell, and taste. Anyway, you have a question? Oh, I saw your hand. Yes.
Well, you know how you said that, some Amarajas, they say like 3 handfuls, and some say 3.5. Say you follow the scholar that has 3.5, but is it like are you allowed to like change the Greek just for that matter to like 3? Say if it's like,
if the scholar you follow, he says 3.5, then you must always stick to that. If he says 3 also, then you stick to that.
I think the reason trying to ask is, if you feel like, because 2 scholars have variation in their fatwa, are you allowed to change on that basis if you feel like no? Why?
No, you cannot change. You can only change if the other marja is more knowledgeable than the marja you are following. So in that case, you change completely to follow that marja, so that you do everything according to that marja. But you cannot just say, yeah, it suits me, so you go and take from this marja and then you use it. No, it doesn't work out.
No, but then how do we know who's like more knowledgeable between Ayatollah Sistani and Ayatollah?
We use experimental and whatever to find out. We were talking about it in our guide. We must find out. How do we find out? We ask those we think they know and they will tell us. You understand? That is our responsibility. But in fiqh, most marriages, they say, if let's say you are following a dead marriage, a marriage and then he dies, okay, you can still stick to him. While new fatwas that he didn't issue fatwa, you can follow a living marriage. Okay? But it depends if your marriage agrees. Because there are marriages who say that don't follow a dead marriage. If that is the marriage you are following, when he dies, you cannot still follow him. But if he says we can follow dead marriage, then we can stick to him while you are following another marriage in certain issues that are not clear to you. Okay, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.